This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Today's topic is the cost of living crisis in Nigeria and the Nigerian economy. We actually had a vote on this, and people said, you know what, it couldn't have been a better topic to discuss, especially after what happened the last 10 days in Nigeria, both in the economy and in the polity. So today we've decided to bring in two powerful guests. One will give us different dimensions, from upstream, if I can say that, and then we'll take it downstream, at the street level. People who feel the pain of this cost of living crisis and share their experiences. So I have today two guests. The first one is Dr. Boniface Chizea. Dr. Boniface Chizea, how are you today?
Well, bless God. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So My second guest today is Obandi, Mabel, Nubi. How are you, Mabel?
Very fine, thank you.
Where are you from?
My father is Cross River and my mom is from Edo State.
Fantastic. Dr. Chizea.
Yes.
Nigeria and Nigerians are going through hell, and that is saying it softly at the moment. So what are the most significant challenges facing Nigeria's economy today? What do I mean? What strategies or policies and structural changes are needed to address them? But first and foremost, what are these major challenges facing Nigeria today and the Nigerian economy?
Well, thank you very much. I think that's what to say, like you said in your introduction, the cost of living it's never been like this before. You put it in context.
Yes.
The rate of inflation today is over 34%.
34%.
And it's not been that high in over 20 years.
Food inflation is even higher.
Food inflation is higher. Food inflation is like almost 40% and over. So and then when you have that sort of situation, you have inflation. What the inflation does is that it marginalizes the downtrodden. The poor, the worker, because they can't pass it on. Now, even where you have agitations, for increases and so on and so forth, there's always a lag, And so in the interim, the person is going through excruciating situations and circumstances. And when you have hunger, as it's being brought home to us clearly, hunger doesn't have coloration. It doesn't have politics. So if you are hungry, you are hungry, and if you are a hungry person, as we say, is an angry person. So I think that the hunger in the land is something else. And unfortunately, it's been there for quite some time. We can say that it was unleashed. It's been in the system, but it's not been as terrible as it is now. I think that this government came on board and took some steps, and those steps exacerbated the situation. So the president, when he was giving his inaugural address, he said subsidy is gone. As soon as he said that, fuel price that was about 400, 600 went up. Suddenly it was going overboard. And when I hear people talk about we're capped in subsidy, we're still paying subsidy, I laugh. Because it was obvious to those of us who were tracking the situation closely that subsidy was stopped a long time ago. It could have been, that's happening now. It could have happened much earlier. Because once you allow the price of petrol to increase, it walks right through the system. It affects everybody, and that's exactly what happened. And so it was there, and they would not compounded this, by also trying to want to float the currency. And we've told them, those of us who have been in this scene for quite some time, that you don't float your currency. Because if you float, you don't have a market for dollar in Nigeria.
It's not even a convertible currency.
No, even they don't, so you can't. So we told them. But some of our colleagues, so you float it and it goes and then it finds its, round tripping will stop and so on. It will find its level, and then people who come from overseas, they're not bringing in their monies because the currency, they feel it's not what it should be, and so on and so forth. I told them, no, it doesn't work that way. And it's staring us on the face. So we are feeling, everybody's feeling it. You float the currency, and now we are reversing everything. Now we are going back to manage, float, so auction, so you're going to retail auction. What is it? It's you're going to manage, you're going to control, and you need that, because what was happening is that it was difficult to even predict what the rate of exchange would be. It was difficult to predict. And so how do you, if you're an operator in the market, how do you operate in that system? It's so tough. So if you go into the market and you buy something today, and then you're going to go the next time, you're not sure what rate you're going to get it. And so it's difficult for businessmen. They can manage risk not uncertainty. That's like throwing them in a space where there's uncertainty, and that's a terrible situation to be for a business person. So I think that's that's where we find ourselves, and I don't know how we're going to get out of it, but I can begin to go into the things we needed to do.
We'll get to that. Yes, we'll get to that. I'm happy that you've laid the foundation. You've explained that we have this twin devil that has been thrown at us at double whammy at the same time, isn't it? You make a pronouncement, that subsidy is gone. If I hear you are saying that there wasn't preparation for that.
No,
we weren't prepared for that.
And there's admission now that there was.
In fact, when that pronouncement was made, the federal government have not even had their cabinet in place.
Yes.
Neither did we have the central bank governor. So we were wondering what was the basis, what was it going to call out. Then we have the issue of the naira, which we've allowed to float because we are taking the advice of the Brentwood institutions. So today the naira is gyrating, and when it gyrates, it touches every nerve. So I hear those are the twin issues. So Mabel, you are, and I want the street perspective. Street level perspective. I know you're quite educated, but you are very close to this constituency.
Yes, sir.
When I hear every government official, in fact, almost in unison, they said that the youths were protesting, and that protest was induced, and in fact it was an indication that people were trying to change government. Do you think so? And what are the underlying causes of this youth protest that went on the last 10 days?
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
I think we are at the point where everyone is frustrated.
Okay.
The doctor just used the word uncertainty, and I want to lay my premise on that. You see, when you have an idea or an assumption, it helps you. You still say, okay, maybe it's 2. I can still assume that it could be 4. But when you're uncertain about even the 2 or where to start from, then there is no thought process.
Okay.
There's nothing to help you, begin to think forward or backward. It's like you're going somewhere, you have no clue where the place is. There is no thought process. You don't know where you want to go to. Yeah. That's where we are. Now, if I bring it from
the Google map was indicating a wrong indication in the first place.
Even Google, they get confused. Google is beginning to mislead you at this point, because I'm just trying to make you understand how when your brain freezes, you just can't think anymore, and that's what hopelessness does.
Okay.
When you have a sense,
are you saying that we were in the near hopelessness, or we're already in it?
That's where we are. I do mental health also.
Is that the feeling on the street?
That's the feeling, sir.
Okay.
People don't have anything to hold on to anymore. So the hopelessness is breeding frustration.
Okay.
And when you see a young person, Nigerians are hardworking, by the way.
Yeah.
Nigerians are hardworking people.
No doubt about that. Yeah.
And I want to really emphasize on that, because you see, I think it just feels as if we're under like a curse, and everybody is trying their best, to live above this, this level where we have been placed and subjected to. On the streets, people are still thriving. The guy that is a welder, the woman that is in the market selling tomatoes. During Salah, a basket of tomatoes were over 80,000 naira.
What was it before then?
Now, it was like...
during Salah it was 80.
During Salah, about that time. Now, it wasn't even because of Salah, because it was already increasing before, Salah. We all know that when the festive period comes, there's always a hike in prices. Now, before then, let's say we buy tomatoes for 20,000 a basket. In the north, it's like 8,500.
Okay.
Or let's say 7,000 naira. Because I know for sure, I cater, when tomatoes was about 38,000 a basket, we could get it enough for 8,500.
Okay.
But the logistics to bring that tomatoes to the south, that's where all the burden is.
Okay.
When you say you're taking away the power of life, which is movement, you are saying that whatever that makes everything move and breathe must be taxed. I don't know if you understand. You should expect that every other thing would have a problem. Life depends on movement. Okay. So the logistics to make a bricklayer come to site to work is already high. The logistics to make me move this 8,500 basket of tomatoes to Lagos State.
So logistics in this sense is transportation. Okay.
So your crude oil, your fuel, your whatever you need to ensure that logistics happen is what is ruling the process. So where we are now is that we are being governed by one process, one thought.
Okay.
This oil, like this thing that aids our logistics. If we had electric cars, we could say, okay,
we can switch.
We don't have an option. That was why I said in the beginning that we are left with nothing. We have nothing to bargain with. So we are all dependent on this crude oil. We know agriculture has been our strength even before crude oil was discovered. Now, we would eat, that's okay. But to take the food from where it's coming from, even though, yes, it's cheap sometimes, by the time it gets to the other man at the other end of the world, it's already hiked up. So the decision to make the main cost of movement become so impossible for the common man is where the problem is.
Is it impossible, or is it just very expensive, or is it out of reach?
Come again, sir. With
Is it this transportation you talk about? Is it impossible? People couldn't move anymore, or was it just it became plain expensive?
Plain expensive. People still move.
Okay.
I mean, to fill my car, I'm going to say something very funny. Since this government, started, I've been on half tank.
Okay.
I am a business owner. I have money, but I had to set my priorities right.
Yes.
Reduce, unnecessary movements, home to work to home, anything that causes me to go beyond my half time. Because if I put that fuel in my car, I have to put in my fuel generator and my diesel generator to run my business. I've run my business 6 weeks, no lights. We have the whole electrical companies having a ball on ridiculous bills.
This you're painting a very depth situation. I mean, that's a predicament. Like my uncle would say, he called himself to a meeting. Yes. Because you got to a stage where you say, listen, I can't even fill this tank, because filling it itself is a capital expenditure when it's supposed to be recurrent expenditure, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, but I ask you, so how do I put it in the layman terms? When we say cost of living, how do they understand it? What is the meaning of cost of living to them?
Because in this country, I think orientation is very poor, so we don't have that education, even to the common one, to explain the basic.
Okay.
Now, what Nigerians understand as basic cost of living is I would eat.
Okay.
I'll live in a decent house.
Okay.
Now, we are not asking for too much, because I've seen people live in very ridiculous spaces, but they make it okay.
Yeah, just a roof over their head. Okay.
For them.
Okay.
Then we must move from one point to another.
Okay.
We employ people.
Okay.
Half of the time, if I offer you 60,000 salary, you say it's small, because from where you're coming from to work,
transport alone takes
everything. And you as the employer, you already know that there won't be productivity, because this person is not going to function based on what you're even offering way over what is called the minimum wage.
Okay. Now, all governments, Mabel, not just this one, they come up with what they call solutions. They come up with their own way of managing information on how to treat matters like this. Do you think there's a trust between this government and the people being governed so far, from what you say from the streets? What do you think? Because, government have come out now to say, okay, we hear you. Can you step down on this protest? We are going to put the policies in place that would immediately give us short and medium term alleviation to this suffering.
I don't think there's any trust anywhere. But you
have to trust your government.
When you've lost faith in something or somebody, you need time to rebuild it. And you need a lot of effort to put back to regain that trust. The youths we have, I think Nigerian youths are actually patient people.
Okay.
Because the frustration they have allowed us endure. I'm a youth. I just clocked 40.
Okay.
I'm a business owner.
Okay.
I've raised my capital without borrowing from the banks, because the bank won't believe that my business is profitable to give money back.
By the way, we'll come to that. Why?
Yes. I'm going back to say that when I contribute my piece into a system and I don't get anything back in return to make me feel like I'm doing something, no matter how small, then there's nothing you want to tell me that will make me trust you. So the youths, everybody is tired. Everybody's just frustrated, and we're just floating. So this protest you see is saying, do something. Like you have in other countries, you have little things like food stamps, for example. If you want solutions that are visible, first of all, create things that are accessible to the so-called poor people you feel exist. Food stamps are there. In America, they have pantries.
Okay.
People pack their cars, go take clothes, go take food, go take little things. You put incentives like palliatives. You only hear it was available. You don't see those. they have taken it. Now, there is a constant and it's like a vicious circle of or repeats of such behaviors where things are never distributed evenly. I can tell you for free that if we want to cook food for 1 million Nigerians every day on this street, Nigerians in themselves can contribute and make that happen. It's not an impossible thing. Yeah. We've seen people donate monies to people online.
But they have to believe.
They have to believe in the system. When a young person comes and curses the father, you have the audacity to say to your president, you're not okay. It shows that I've lost every sense of respect that I have for you. That alone is okay. Go on social media, profile comments, you will see that people, they don't even care anymore.
Yeah, but social media is not regulated. People just say things whimsically. Do they really mean it?
We can at least extract a bit of emotions from there to understand how a regular person is thinking. So if we go by that, we say that there is no respect anywhere. If I don't have respect for you, it means I don't have faith in you. It means I don't trust you. And there's nothing you want to tell me because the words they're all empty now.
So in the immediate and the short term, if government begin to themselves show responsibility, if they begin themselves to show that they can lead by example, if they begin to tighten their own belt themselves, would that help? Would that help call back this lack of faith and belief that you're talking about?
It will. Some sense of communication, some sense of fatherly love.
Are they not communicating properly?
They're not communicating in any way. Nobody's saying anything. In those days when I was
but they are saying, I mean, listen, I see a lot of communication from the people who manage the presidency, and these are communication experts.
There's a difference there's a difference between when you tell me that you have processes in place to do something, and between me and you, we know these things are not automatic. It might take like 5 years, maybe 3-5 years for implementation.
There are no milestones or something.
Now, even if you put that, what is the immediate contingency plan that you have to contain this issue that is happening?
So you reckon that there's none? You can't feel that?
There is no one on the street right now.
And that's really a predicament. So, Dr. Chizea, I come back to you. The Nigerian economy is in stagflation. What we call in economy stagflation. So government at the federal level insists that reforms have been introduced and that the relief by way of turnaround is by the corner. What do you see in the short and mid-term from government? Do you believe that?
Well, I think that the situation you have in hand is that people there's hunger in the land, and then the hungry person doesn't have much time. There's no slack. So the person is have hunger, and then the person has to be fed. So so I can appreciate the fact that we are beginning to give palliatives and so on and so forth. But even those palliatives, I think the point really is of concern is that those palliatives would they even get to the beneficiaries? I think at some point in time, the presidency was shipping shiploads of bags of rice, to state governors and so on and so forth. But before you even know what's happening, the state authorities would those party members would hijack those things and then misdirect them. So I think that it's a terrible situation to be in. That's why, like I said earlier on, this thing we saw it coming, a long time coming. I remember there was a time when the First Lady, when I visited to Kano, and even the Emir of Kano, on camera was telling her that there's hunger in the land. And before that time, it was a station that never leaves my memory. A family of 4 got tired of looking for something to eat. They couldn't get it. And they decided they got hot water, put salt in it, they drank, and the next day they were all gone. So,
this happened?
Yeah, it happened in Nigeria, happened in Kano. And so when I saw the crisis and saw it in Kano, I said to myself, yes. And we've been taking things for granted. We've been thinking that Nigerians cannot, we don't protest and so on and so on. I think we've seen it now. That really, that of Kano is something else. Looted, went to National Library, looted everything except books.
Talking about state governments, because there are 3 tiers of government: the federal, the state, and most times we pay attention to the federal. But let me ask you a question that really will touch the subnationals, which is the state government. And I come with some figures here. Removal of SWEP subsidies saved Nigeria about 10 billion naira. Amount spent in subsidy in 2023, which is there about 10 billion. And I'm taking this from FAC account, which means that the FAC account therefore increased by over 130% from May 2023 to over 1 trillion naira. So the question is, what is government at the subnational level doing with all this money that has been saved and that has been passed to them.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
I think 2 quick comments. The thing is that the money came and then it was bloated naira. Okay. Bloated in the sense that you have inflation. And now it's known that once you have a fact allocation, it impacts the rate of exchange immediately. What are the state what did the governors, what did they do?
In your estimation, what have they done with it?
They put it in dollars. They go and change it in dollars and they go and save them in dollars.
How do we know that?
Well, it tells the price of the rate of exchange.
So you think the pressure on the naira vis-a-vis dollar comes from that?
Yes, but part of it is also speculative. Okay. So people are thinking that the thing is going to fall further, and then so even if you don't need it now, you buy it. Some people you just buy it and keep it. Because you know that if they sell it.
No, but I'm talking of the subnationals now.
Yes, yes. At least state government. I think that when we had that windfall. That came from removing the subsidy. I think that should have been handled differently. I think we should. That's when one of the problems we had is that we removed subsidy, we caused hardship, and we didn't have any cushioning strategy. So eventually we start talking about CN buses and so on and so forth. We never. So that was the problem. That thing should have been done. All the presidential contenders, during the election, they all talked about subsidy removal. Nobody. They said the problem that we had this time around was that the process. It wasn't thought through. It wasn't handled properly. So what we needed to do was before this thing was taken, there should have been we should have been deliberate in saying how do we. For instance, one of the things you need to do, because you knew that transportation prices will go up, and once that goes up, there's going to feed through the system everywhere, and so you start thinking of mass. Transport by mass movement. You talk of CNG buses and so on that you will not be using. You have to try and put things like that in place.
Yeah, but this government has been in power just like
1 year and 1 year plus.
1 year plus. That is about 16 months.
Yes.
So did you expect that all this could have been put in place?
Yeah, but then they shouldn't have done what they did without putting those. That's why we are in this mess.
Okay.
Yes, I mean these things. The problem in Nigeria didn't just happen with this government. We must say that that's a matter of fact. It didn't happen with that. It's been there. Yeah. It's a case of historic case of.
It's the same party.
Same party and the same mismanagement.
The same political party that has been in
party
for 10 years.
For 10 years.
So you would think that the policy around the economy should have been the same, and there's some continuity.
Yes, to a large extent. I mean, by just telling us that Port Harcourt refinery was going to be producing 2 million liters by this month. Of course, you had that severally.
Do you believe in that?
How can I believe that? Given the sort of,
yes,
if I look at the track record, we are praying that it should happen. We're praying that it should happen. But the fact is that, if we go by what the experience we have, it's not happened all this while. There are videos making the rounds where Melek Kyari was promising, in time of Buhari and co. that before this government, all the funds will be working. So why have they not been working? And it's becoming clear, because there are conflicts of interest.
Yeah, it's a question I'll ask down the line because I'm very sure that if these refineries work, then something positive would have happened by way of alleviating or providing succor to us because of the effects that will come with it. Now, Mabel, food insecurity, Dr. Chizea has talked about it, and what causes it in the Nigerian context majorly, in my estimation, is violence and insecurity that has not allowed farmers to go back. In fact, the people who should be farmers, especially in the north, are in the ID camp. So they are not even farming. Yes. And because of that, food insecurity, as we speak, is over 40% across Nigeria, and it's still escalating. Yes. So is the government reading the signal right? From what you hear on the street and from how it impacts the middleman, the lower man, is the government really reading this signal right from what you hear and see? And then what consequences can this bring if this situation continues with food insecurity?
I think we are at the level of depravity, and
level of what?
Depravity.
Okay.
And I also believe that when you are a leader and you have the right counsel around you, and they have compassion and they have empathy, they should be able to be sensitive to some extent to know, because the man that is up there today was somewhere in Ajigule yesterday. And it amazes me. I see people that came from a very humble background get there and they become, they just feel like they were never there.
Yeah, but that has always been the case with Nigeria. So what is this thing? Is it in our water that we drink?
I think it's in the culturing.
Okay.
We are not orientated well enough to understand that. Yes, we're a diverse country.
What public service means, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't quite understand.
We don't understand. The orientation of the system is not solid enough.
Has it been defined?
I don't even think so.
Okay.
Because I'm in this space where, I host meetings, I talk to people every day, I communicate with people, and you'll be shocked that they don't know the basic things.
So those people you communicate with, sorry, I'm cutting you in.
Yes,
do they understand what Nigeria means, and what do Nigeria actually mean to them? Or is just some amorphous thing, is there any belief in this? Is it well articulated and defined, Nigeria, and its vision and mission?
No. So they see it from the point of their ethnic groups, from the point of their, of their culture, and that's the word. So if I'm Yoruba, if I'm Igbo, if I'm Hausa, that's how I see Nigeria, from my point. Now, we've been able to maintain unity somehow through the Ankara clothes we wear, through the things we do together in terms of being happy together.
And your super egos.
And our super egos. I think that has unified us in a beautiful way. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of things, when it comes to the sharing of resources, that's where the division is. That's where we want to say, no, this is mine and that is that.
Yeah.
And then maybe one fraction of the country has been able to maintain some balance, I don't know. To say, okay, you know what, we don't need to fight. We can at least find an even way. Now, I want to use the perfect example. I go to the market.
Okay.
If you go to the market and you buy vegetables from the houses, the moment you establish some level of relationship, you buy it cheaper because you're coming constantly, and then you forge my customer. Before you know, they give you the freshest, they give you because you have established loyalty. And that's a language.
Some connect, yeah.
That's a communication language for them. You're coming every day. They know that you will not buy from the next person, you buy from me.
Okay.
So we have that. With the Igbos, you know that an Igbo man might not have a shop or capital, but he will make profit that day because there is an agreement within them to say, okay, take my goods. You can sell and put your money on it as long as there is an agreement. The Yorubas also have a system where they know that, okay, I will share information with you, and this information can help you from here to this. But if you go abroad and go to the communities, you see even in UK, you see that they share information to keep themselves together. So Nigerians have had this pattern.
So we have our way.
Our way of survival.
Which works anyway. So that's probably what we should have probably articulated properly.
Yes.
And get governed by it.
Exactly.
Instead of something just being imposed from somewhere or
because whether you push a Nigerian to the stream and say, oh, we find a way to survive. We can even survive by begging.
Yeah.
Half of now as I'm speaking to you, we survive by begging.
Is there an industry like that? Begging industry?
You might decide to make it an office because you call your sister in UK, please, I'm running low on rent.
Has it come to that now? Is that how people live?
That's how we survive.
Really?
We survive on each other.
Okay.
We're surviving on relationships. We're surviving because you know that if I have yams, I had a woman walk up to me and say, Madam, I have yam, but I don't have anything to,
garnish
I just need 1,000, and she showed it to me. Whether she's lying or not, that is a reality. That is possible.
That's who we are.
That's who we are.
Yeah.
So I just feel in my spirit that there is nothing so difficult in making available that little thing that Jamu the welder or Mama BC that sells tomatoes cannot have access to without anybody monopolizing it. Don't put in simple things you will eat in another person's hand to control and make you feel you must beg for it.
Okay.
That is the level of
that's where the frustration comes
where
in.
we are now.
Okay.
We have to beg for what we
everything.
know that is simple to get.
That's not good at all. Dr. Chizea, I come back to you.
Yes.
Chizea Boniface. And the more you speak to me, what comes to my mind is leadership. There's a problem here around this thing we call leadership. So how important is leadership, and how tough is it to provide leadership in difficult and troubling times? And when I talk difficult and troubling times, I'm talking of times like this, where we have atmosphere of fear, revenue pressure, talent loss and mobility, existential threat, in fact. So, but how is it the kind of leadership we are getting across board, and especially the ones that we have the benefit of today, is it adequate, or have we wrongly defined what leadership?
Well, I think that when I heard about the protests and I heard about the requests they were making, what kept on going through my mind is the fact that we're not emphasizing the fact that we need to clean up INEC. It's most important. I think that the guy there should be out of that seat by now.
So is it about him?
Yes, because he put us in this mess. If you ask me,
but INEC is not about. It's an institution.
It's an institution, but then those who run the institution they didn't live up to the billing.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
You have to start from there, because I think it's very important that, if you are in a position that if you get to that position, you are somebody that the people voted for. I have to start from there. If you don't have that within your system, now it means those who are in occupying positions, they don't feel accountable into the electorate, who should have the power. And so if I feel that I can get there, no matter what you did, what you didn't do, I'll get there, I'll manipulate, the system, and I'll get into a position, then I'm not going to be concerned.
You're not obliged. Yeah.
I'm not obliged to make sure that I give a good account of myself. So we need to do that, because leadership is everything.
Okay.
Yes. So you must have a leader that you has vision. So you are coming have a vision. You must have a leader that is selfless. So that it's going to come there and say, look, the challenges we have. So how much money do I need? I find that some of our leaders, they are so insatiable, they are so unthinking. So how much money? So you have a building in Cote d'Ivoire, you have a building in London, you have a building. How many houses are going to sleep?
It's called Octopus Complex.
Is that what it's called? Yes. And so you have
this ability to grab and grab.
Yes, you grab and you manipulate the system. And then when you have somebody who is not clean at the head of the governance, it has some implications. And so I go through the papers.
And we're talking at all levels.
Yeah, all levels. So you go through the papers, and then people tell you that we have 48 ministers. We shouldn't have 48 ministers in the first place. We should be one minister per state. So you should have 36. We have 48.
Should even be one minister per state.
Well, that's what federal character, and that's what nobody. Some would be full
maybe
ministers.
Look at that again.
Yes. So maybe they should.
The kind of resources we have, where you spend 97% of your resources on recurrent expenditure.
Yes.
Nigeria shouldn't have more than 18 ministers.
Yes, and so when that happens, so I read something that says, I don't have my facts on this, that 43 of the 48 ministers have issues with EFCC. 43 or 48? 48 have issues with EFCC.
So it means that on average, every other Nigerian has a file with EFCC.
So that means it's a criminal enterprise. And then 11 of the people that failed as governors, try to be governors.
We need to verify that.
11 of those that failed as governors, and 9 of those who failed as 11 that contested, none of them are appointed ministers. And so we are being appointed, not because you have any expertise. You are being appointed. System, yes. So you supported the party.
So leadership is core, because if we get leadership in Nigeria 20% right, with the kind of potential Nigeria has,
then we won't have any problems.
Where we are, just 20%, isn't it? So maybe come back to you. I'm told that true leadership must include the ability to distinguish between real and apparent.
Yes, sir.
From what people feel on the street, do we know the difference really? Do you think government knows the difference between real danger or apparent danger? They think the danger is still apparent or is real?
I think if you say at the level where we are right now, it's what they are fed. They take what they are fed.
Okay.
If a minister,
don't they have further feedback mechanism?
That's the thing. I don't think the feedback makes any sense, because if someone is telling you the truth, then the thing will be changing. The process will be changing. If you apply a pattern to something and it's not working, you change it. If someone comes back to say to you, the palliatives you sent last week, it was meant for 1,000 people. Only 500 people got it. You got that memo. Go back and check who are the 500, where are the remaining 500, where did he go to? Then somebody should be able to say, yes, we are accountable for this. Now, when you have a system that there is zero accountability, no responsibility, no commitment to anything, then we will keep floating the way we are floating. So at this point, there is nobody owning up to say, I'm telling you the truth, this is how things go. Me and you know that half of the time it was on the news. You're opening warehouses of palliatives that citizens had to rush to go take because somebody hid it. It's food, for Christ's sakes. Half of those things might have expiry dates on it. They might even have been expired. Nobody knows. Now, we don't even know how long those things were stored up in that place. Till today, nobody came out to say, I have held this person accountable for making that wrong decision. It was in the news. Everybody saw it. But nobody has been held accountable for that action. So we don't have a system that, that way we have a law with consequences. I think the law just applies to who it favors or who it doesn't favor. Like, I use it to whoever I choose to or for. So there is no system of accountability. And I don't think that if the president in himself gets the right feedback, we will be where we are.
So you think feedback is a problem?
I think it's a big problem in this country.
Now, I go back to leadership. Dr. Boniface.
Yes.
Not going back, but I'm emphasizing because I know very well, going from my experiences managing big businesses and multinationals and even leading people, how important leadership is. When leadership is out of touch with God, I know today is Sunday. When leadership is out of touch with God and his people, they lose teachability. In fact, you find this in Proverbs 10:17, the New King James Version. So do you sense that Nigeria is in that space, where the current political leadership don't quite understand what the time is?
Well, we don't have to go too far back. Let's look at the speech made by the president. It took him a long time. We thought that if you had sad notice, there's going to be some protest within the system, that we expected the president to react, and it took him time to react. And after he made his presentation, it was like somebody who just came to give us an account of his stewardship.
Yeah, but you know how experienced Adam Oshomole is, a Labour leader of many years, 2-time governor of Edo State, now distinguished senator, a high-ranking senator. He has come out to defend that speech. He said, in fact, it's one of the best he's ever heard in his life.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's entitled to his point of view. I'm also entitled. I come from a position where you have fire on the mountain, you have fire on your rooftop, you have a crisis, there's a protest, and you are trying to douse that protest. And the people, they had demands. And then also you have, they told you that they are hungry and so on and so forth. And then you make a speech, that did not touch any of the issues raised by those making protests, and some of the complaints people have made in the fact that the people in authority have not they've not showed us that this hardship should be shared. So you have a situation whereby the case of building the house of the vice president, 21 billion naira. You have the case of hard support, 90 billion. You have the case of
you see wrong priorities.
Yeah, they see it, and then so.
You are seeing wrong.
Obviously, Nigerians are seeing it. Very wrong. Yes,
okay.
And this is a country that is in crisis. So you're coming in crisis, and you know that, and you are living. You are living in denial.
In crisis. What do you mean? Is Nigeria in receivership?
Yes, we are. If you're not in
crisis, Nigeria is in receivership. If it
no. When I say crisis, I mean that there's a turmoil on the land. That's why you have the protest.
Okay.
So I'm having protests in Nigeria. We're normally.
So you are convinced that this protest was induced out of hunger?
Yes, nothing more.
Okay.
And so those who go about saying you want to unseat you want to overthrow the government and so on and so forth, people are hungry.
Okay.
And if you look at what's happening, look at the reactions. Look at what's happening in the north. Because you have more poor people in the north. And those who have been more grossly affected, and so go to people in the east, and they are smiling, they are entertaining themselves. They say, "Look, we've been in this for a long time. We are used to it. We are toughened."
Dr. Boniface, in your estimation, why didn't this protest spread to southeast? And if it did, why didn't they take active part in it?
Yeah, it wouldn't spread to the first place. The people from the southeast after the elections were like sitting ducks. They were being targeted, and it's just obvious. So the Igbos must go.
But that's in some states. It's not a national.
Well, just in Lagos State. It's happening in Lagos State.
Yeah, but the protest wasn't a Lagos protest, isn't it? I mean, it wasn't it was supposed to be a national protest.
Yeah, there was national protest, but it's exacerbated.
Why didn't it get traction in the southeast?
That's the protest itself.
Yes,
because people they're already in it already. So you're already living in you've adjusted to the situation. Yes, adjusted the situation. Yeah. So for them, there's nothing new. They've adjusted. They're living by it. If you travel to the southeast, you look to the extent that the place is being placed, militarized, and so on and so forth. And people are adjusted. They are not even dependent on government.
Yes, they moved on, isn't it?
Yeah, they just moved on. They just moved on, not just in their head.
Okay. Yes. I'll come back to Mabel. I know you're not an economist, but some common sense can still interpret this for me. And let me tell you what I just wrote down before this program, and I took it after some study process.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
You see, the newly industrialized countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and China rejected the World Bank IMF prescriptions. Yes. These countries conceptualized and formulated and in fact implemented what we call homegrown solutions to escape from backwardness and underdevelopment. In the case of Nigeria, the World Bank and IMF have become too visible in our appetite for advice. Are you comfortable with this situation and our relationship and our romance with the Brentwood institutions, World Bank and IMF?
No,
if not, why?
No, I am not. So I think that that has caused us to become dependent.
Okay.
You know, we have a consuming power we are not talking about. Okay. Nigeria is a consuming nation. Now, if you look at it on the negative, it's not okay. But on the positive, it means that if China produces, they need us to consume it.
Okay.
So you think production is your power, but we that consume are the ones that give value
you need
to
the
that
market anyway.
Rich. Yeah. So we at the market.
Okay.
We need to come into that understanding. As little as doing a piece of content on social media, if you use a Nigerian content, it gains traction. So we know that. Now, we cannot be taking what we don't need. If you put pepper, the seed of pepper, on the grounds of this nation, it will grow. The ground is fertile. Everywhere you grow, everywhere you go, you have the ability to even grow your own food at your backyard. I just keep hearing figures, like what Doctor just said about, the priorities not being right. Taking money and placing it in things that are not productive or not profitable. Take Nigeria as an entire business. See the president as a CEO of Nigeria as an investment. To him, is it profitable to run this type of business this way? It's not. We are too dependent. And the way we've become so dependent on this, on the oil we have, we are not telling our youth to do something else away from just sitting. You sit at 35-year-old and you think, okay, it's okay for me to not think beyond. You're not building my capacity to be creative. You're not building my capacity to create opportunities, even for other people. So we don't have an environment that is enabling, and the way we still go in bed with this, I want to use the right words, like this foreign bodies to keep taking.
Yeah, the advice, isn't it?
It's not working for us. It's
something
not for us.
We need to balance it.
We need to come and speak to ourselves and survive within ourselves without external influences.
All right. On home stretch, Dr. Chizea Boniface.
Yes.
The Nigerian economy is not the number one, going by all we've heard today. It is sad that the emerging middle class are not part of the are becoming part of the multidimensional poverty. But the part that worries me really, and I think you belong to this class, is the part that we also now have the intellectual class in poverty, coupled with the already reserved army of the unemployed, which is dangerous to this country. When the country begins to suck its intellectual class into poverty, you know what is coming. That country cannot develop, because this is a think tank. These are people that do all the R&D, all the research, and upon which we begin to innovate and then find solutions and development. So how big is this predicament to you? I know that you have colleagues like this, and it's affecting them emotionally, psychologically, and mentally. The impact on intellectual property is there, and R&D and so on and so forth. Do you fear that this is an area that we must watch as a matter of immediate? We must not allow our intellectual capital to die, an intellectual class.
Well, the only way you can solve that is, to fix the economy. I mean, the Nigerians are all over the place.
Yeah, we need to fix the economy generally, but do we need to isolate these people and treat them specially? Because
they should be treated.
That is the bedrock of any society that it tends to develop.
Yes, it is, because most of these people have been trained in this environment, and we train them at great expense. And everybody just voting, it's just everywhere. The Nigerians are all over the place. And there's hardly any family now that not have somebody that's gone overseas over this crisis. And that's
brain drain.
That's brain drain. So that's exactly what is happening. And it's going to take us time to replace. In some sectors, take the medical area, for instance. Very soon we wouldn't have doctors anymore. To attend to patients. Even in office management, there are countries in this world. What the problem they have is that they have jobs, they have the money, but they don't have the labor. So you go to Canada, for instance. They are looking for Nigerians all over the place. So once you meet, those they don't want are those that will be a nuisance over there. So if you have a job today, they welcome you. So Nigeria must be concerned. But some people in governance, they have a mindset that says, it's a free world. People can go anywhere. Nigeria would survive.
Yeah, it's for me, it's not just even those who have found their way out, which are basically majorly young people. But I think the collective of our intellectual property and the intellectual class in Nigeria need to be isolated and treated differently.
Exactly.
Otherwise, Nigeria would have been unhinged.
Exactly.
Won't be able to key into research and
exactly.
innovation. Yes. And then if you don't innovate, you know what they say, you die. Yes. So thank you very much. We've run out of time today. It's a wonderful program we had. Time runs when it is sweet, isn't it? Even though it's not quite a sweet subject, but we want to believe that it's been very useful and productive conversation. So do you have a proverb for the week, Dr. Boniface?
Well, I just say, I'll turn mine to Uche Bafa is that you better borrow some sense. You have some problems on your hands. You borrow some sense to solve it. I think I want to leave that word for those in governance.
Borrow from who now?
You must know where you borrow it. You know how to. You have to
find people that. If you are surrounded by
you must have. You must have. Look at the Patriots. Just took a message.
Just borrow some sense.
Borrow some sense. Took a message to President. Changing the constitution. It's fundamental. And they say you take about 9 months to do it. So people are there. We have people who have trained, qualified.
Thank you very much. So for what I get, what the interpretation, so you are or the phrasing of your proverb is just borrow some sense.
Borrow some sense.
So Mabel, do you have song for the week?
Yes, I do, and I want to take it from those that have actually fought for this we are speaking about today. They are no more, but the problem still persists. So Sonny Okosun, an African soldier, to the patriots that have fought, for this country. So I would want to put that on.
Thank you very much.
And that's it on The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Thanks for watching. Like and hit the subscribe button for more videos. Also check out our latest videos on the Classic FM 97.3 because we are the station that plays every song you know.